I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Cannon. As lifelong Disney fans, the work of countless talented Disney creatives have shaped our lives.
Now, as the Disney catalog expands, we're taking a journey through film and television to discover if that spark that shaped us as children lives on in adulthood.
Does your favorite Disney media still cast that same spell? Join us as we find out. We are Rewatching the Magic.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Tuesday.
All right, we are talking about Elio this week, the most recent Pixar movie. It kind of went under the radar for us in a way, because neither one of us saw it. This is going to be a first watch for the both of us.
We had a bit of a debate off mic about this, about how much advertising each one of us had seen for this movie.
Yeah, for me, I actually saw quite a bit of advertising. People keep on saying, oh, Disney doesn't advertise their movies anymore. I saw plenty of advertising for this movie. I saw bus ads. I saw billboards. I saw ads on social media for this movie. And apparently I'm the only one in the world that did, because everyone else had said, oh, I saw no advertising. I didn't even know this movie was out. But y'all saw Zootopia too, didn't you?
Well, and here's the thing. It's interesting, the first of those things that you mentioned. You saw billboards, you saw bus ads. But as we've mentioned before, you live in Chicago. Chicago, large area. Lots of billboards, lots of bus ads. Guess what we don't have where I live in the middle of absolute nowhere? Billboards and bus ads. In fact, I think we just celebrated the first anniversary of my town getting buses. It's not a joke. We just got a bus system like last year. And the buses are those, like, tiny little, what we used to call short buses. Like, they're those. They can fit like maybe 20 people on them at high capacity. And that is the town. They run from like 6 p.m. I think, and they just hit like extremely major things. Like, you can go to the area where all the doctor's offices are, you can go to the area where the grocery store is, you can go to the area where the government offices are, and then they go to a couple of places where there are like large low income apartment housing complexes in the area. Large being a relative term, but for the area, and it's there. I think the entire town has like 4 buses, and they run 2 lines, I think. So yeah, it's great for the town, but we haven't gotten to the part where anyone would advertise on the bus yet. And as far as billboards, we do have billboards, but except for major things, like sometimes you'll see a billboard for like McDonald's or something, something that's like a huge international corporation, and they'll buy a billboard that will stay exactly the same for like, 12 months. And it's, for the area, a major expense for a company that size, pocket change. And then everything else is local businesses that will buy a billboard ad for, 3 months, maybe 6 if they're a larger local company, and that'll be it. There's a lot of changeover, and it's a lot of local billboards. We've got a couple of digital billboards in town now that, some smaller companies even have. But like, I have never seen a movie or TV show advertised on a billboard in my town, because that's too short a time. Like, you wouldn't put up like that much, like, we don't have billboards that change over like, every month or whatever. If you're buying a billboard in my area, you're buying it for like 6 months or a year generally. Disney is not going to put up like a billboard for Elio for 6 months in the same place. Like, it's just not going to happen. I know that when I lived in Chicago, when we kind of first became friends, they were I got used to like, oh man, there's advertisements everywhere. But then, kind of in my hometown where I'm kind of used to being, not really. If I'm getting advertisements, I'm getting them either before on TV and now on social media. And because I use every ad blocker that has ever been put out ever, and I pay extra to not see ads on any streaming service that I have, I almost never see ads for anything.
And I think that's a big part of it, is that there are a lot of people who have the ad blockers who are not seeing ads for anything unless a lot of people are sharing it. Like, everyone is going to share the trailers that are coming out for Avengers Doomsday. But is anyone sharing the trailers for Hoppers? And we're only a few weeks away from that movie coming out. Have you even heard of this movie called Hoppers, Kiki?
Actually, I have, but here's the weird reason why I have. Because the movie Hoppers, a lot of people make the comparison of this seems like the James Cameron Avatar movies. And even in the trailer, they make that joke. But the reason that I have seen that trailer, and I think the only reason I have seen that trailer, is because, as we mentioned frequently, the both of us are Mystery Science Theater fans. And that movie, when the trailer first came out, that movie went viral in Mystery Science Theater fan groups because the plot looks a lot like a plot of a movie that was riffed on Mystery Science Theater back in the day called Overdrawn at the Memory Bank. And that is the only reason I have seen that trailer. Other than it going viral on Mystery Science Theater fan groups for that reason, I have not seen anyone else talk about that movie. You are correct.
Like, everyone went to go see Zootopia 2 based, same thing. People may not have seen the advertisement for it. I saw a hell of an advertisement. I saw advertisements in the airport on the little dishes, the little trays you put your stuff in. I saw advertisements on that.
The TSA security trays?
Yes.
Oh my god, they put ads in those now? Oh my god, we put ads in everything. It's gonna be Futurama where it's like, well, we had ads everywhere, but not in our sleep,
Sidebar this, it's like people keep saying they want original stories, original movies, and then the original story, the original movie comes out. No one goes to see it. That's what you're telling Disney. You're telling Disney, we don't want this original story. We want the sequel. You didn't see Elio. Y'all saw Zootopia. That's telling Disney, give us more sequels. Give us more sequels. Give us more remakes.
Okay, but
for all the complaining that people gave towards the Lilo and Stitch remakes, y'all saw it, and that's all that matters to Disney.
Okay, well, I haven't seen the Lilo and Stitch remake. Just saying. But
I didn't see it on principle, but that's a different story.
Well, I just didn't see it because I didn't see it. One, it didn't interest me, and two, we've discussed before how difficult it is for me to get into theater, so I don't see anything in theaters anymore, really. But you're talking about like, hey, y'all didn't go see Elio, but we didn't go see Elio either.
That's true.
Let's just be honest about that. Neither of us saw Elio until we decided to do it for the podcast. It has been up on streaming services for like 9 months now. It's been on Disney Plus. We have not watched this movie.
And I'm guilty of it. I will admit it. I'm guilty of that as well. But it was just...
Yeah, I don't want to put it all on like, you plebes not going to it. We didn't do it either. And we're the people who do the podcast about the Disney movies. If we didn't see it, nobody is seeing it.
Yeah. Which is kind of why I want Hoppers to succeed, because y'all want original movies. I don't care if you think it looks like crap. Go see Hoppers. I never thought I'd say that on a podcast.
Okay, but is Hoppers an original movie? I don't know, because like I said, the only reason I know about that movie is because the trailer immediately looked like a really bad movie that got riffed on Mystery Science Theater. I'm not saying that's a reason not to go watch it. In fact, it's all the reason more to go watch it. I only know of one movie that was a remake of a Mystery Science Theater movie, and that was done by Michael Bay, and it was awful. It was worse than the Mystery Science Theater movie, if you can believe it. And so, I mean, I don't know, maybe that movie premise works if it's animated and about talking animals.
Yeah.
The point is like, okay, if you've got all the ad blockers and if you do not live in a major metropolitan area where every bus that passes you, if you even have buses in your town, has advertisements for movies and TV shows, okay? Then the main way you hear about new movies and new TV shows, and primarily the way I hear, me personally, about new movies and TV shows that I should watch is the stuff that the people I know are talking about. If people I know say, hey, I just watched whatever, you should go watch it too. All right. And we are friends with lots of movie and TV nerds. We are friends with lots of Disney adults. And collectively, I think the both of us thought of like one person we knew who saw Elio in theaters.
Yeah. But he also sees everything in theater.
It is our friend Luke, who has been on this podcast many times, and he, like you said, he goes sees everything in theaters. He is like absolutely the target audience for everything Disney. So he's gonna watch it in theaters. It's gonna be impressive if he misses it. And he liked it. He told us to go watch it, and he was literally the only person I remember saying that they saw this in the theater. But I already know, as we're recording this, Zootopia 2 still in the theaters, I believe, in a lot of places. And I know several people who have gone to see it and said that they enjoyed it or said that people should go see it. Whatever, So if we're making that kind of comparison, that's one person on my friends list saying, hey, you should go see this movie, Elio. And, like a good 20 or so, maybe, not a huge number, but a larger number that have already seen Zootopia 2. So, I mean, what do you do with those figures? And yeah, they probably only went to see Zootopia 2 because it's already a property they know. But if you go and watch the trailer for this movie, it's not really a trailer that makes you want to go see this movie.
And I will agree with you on that one, is that Disney does have it's not even a Disney problem. Let me rephrase this. This is not a Disney problem. This is just a modern Hollywood problem, in that there are just not a lot of good trailers. There are, a lot of movies fail because the trailer isn't good. And then I had so many people say of so many different movies in the last few years, the trailers doesn't do the movie justice. Elemental. I'll throw Elemental out there. The trailer for Elemental does not do that movie justice. It does not tell you, if the trailer was recut and told a different way that actually told the story that the movie was telling you, I think it would have done better. Now, it did do better because of that through word of mouth, but like that original trailer and what the movie was are two completely different things. And I think there's a big disconnect with how Hollywood makes these trailers versus the stories these trailers are trying to sell.
Yeah, and I kind of think, people are like, hey, no, people are not going out to see movies and stuff anymore. And a lot of it is the cost, but one of the golden times for Hollywood, the Great Depression, is like people didn't have money for food and they scraped up enough money to go to the theater. Granted, as a percentage of your wage, that was a lot lower. If you actually sit down and do the math on that, a cost to go to a movie during the Great Depression, a lot lower as a percentage of the average wage, even at like the worst part of that,
But also that also is a world before television.
Well, yeah, and it's also a world where it's like, well, one, what are you giving me? And all that is better than me watching this at home. Like, comfortable seating? I don't know, because I got my favorite recliner at my house. You know, I got all my comfy blankets. I got my dog. Does your theater have, my personal shape to my body comfy recliner and my dog? Because I don't know. I like those things.
I
What you
mean,
got? Food? I got food at my house.
also the
It's
theater
cheaper than the food you're serving me,
Also, the theater experience has changed in that a lot of theater etiquette has just been thrown out the window. More people are on their phones in the theater. More people are talking in the theater, just being generally disruptive.
Yeah,
So I can
nobody
see
knows how to go to a movie anymore. My goodness.
not every movie is freaking Rocky Horror. You don't need to talk back to the theaters. You are not Mike and the Bots or Joel and the Bots or whoever and the Bots your choice is.
Yeah, I mean, and there's something to be said for like appropriate reactions in theater. I love being in a theater where like people will like scream if it's scary or cheer if something awesome happens, you
Or
know,
laugh if it's funny. You're
or
watching
laugh
a
if it's
comedy.
funny or yeah. But it's like the sound is always so overblown and we've talked before about the sound in movies. So people are always going, what did they say? Wait, I missed that. What? Even if they're not on their phones, sometimes it's just hard to follow the film because of the lighting or the sound quality. As sometimes, there's a crying baby. Yeah. Like, please stop taking babies to movie theaters. Take small children that can sit in a theater and, somewhat enjoy a movie,
Or that, or
but
that, or they'll have their kid just run around the theater. Have had that happen.
yeah, the theater is not your living room. Just remember that. There are other people there. Be respectful is the point. I think we have gotten way too off track with the rant. But back to Elio specifically.
Yeah, but it's one of those situations, you love it when we do it on the podcast where the story behind the movie kind of is more interesting than the movie. Because Disney announced this movie in 2022 at D23. This was supposed to have a March 2024 release date. They released a trailer in summer 2023 and promptly said, we're delaying the movie. Like, as soon as that trailer came out, we're delaying the movie. And it was delayed all the way to June 2025.
Yeah. That was a big jump. You were like, oh, something went catastrophically wrong.
And what went catastrophically wrong was the test screenings. Okay. So this movie was the brainchild of Adrian Molina. We have talked about him before because he wrote Coco. And he is going to be doing Coco too. And he wrote this movie to kind of be more, and we talked about this with Turning Red, how that was the director's own personal experiences, turning that into a movie. It was going to be the same thing here.
Well, and here's the thing is that Adrian Molina was the producer on Turning Red and worked with that creative team. Because that's important to this story. But you're right. It was supposed to be sort of like how Turning Red was about the like Asian experience, with her being like a Canadian Asian girl and the stories of that. Elio was originally supposed to have that flavor of, okay, I am telling the story of my experience being a Latino family in America, which survived in the movie, but the other part of it is, yeah, Adrian Molina is gay.
Yeah, Elio was supposed to be gay, or at least queer coded, if not outright gay.
Yeah, I mean, it was always going to be Disney Pixar, so it wasn't exactly like it was going to be exactly like, you know, entirely rainbows here. You know,
He was going to be a little bit more flamboyant. He was have a bit more of a flair for fashion. That survived because, when he's in space, he creates this pseudo superhero costume for himself.
well, even when he's on the ground, he's constantly wearing capes just in his daily life that he's made out of, like, bed sheets or blankets or something. And I'm like, rock it, kid. That's great.
So, but also what does survive here is, Adrian Molina, he's an army brat. He grew up on a military base, and so does he. He lives on a military base with, in this movie, in the final film, his aunt, who is in the Space Force. Because it literally says space on her fatigues, and it is the Space Force logo.
Well, yeah, it goes back and forth between, some of her stuff has the Air Force logo on it, and some of the stuff has kind of we stole the Star Trek logo for the Space Force because someone doesn't have any creativity. I'm not going to say who that someone is, but yeah. It's said in there that she wanted to be an astronaut, and almost always those people are from the Air Force. NASA pilots and stuff like that generally come out of the Air Force. So when his aunt is there, that's, is she in the Space Force or is she Air Force, NASA? They try to use, like, I think they were trying not to have to get DoD approval. So they put, like, it sort of looks like the American military, but not really, like,
Yeah.
which I approve of. Do that and never let the DoD ever have anything to do with your film, please. Ever.
You can get away with that in animation with live action. You want the actual use of the army bases and the actual military equipment, and you need.
You know what? I know you do, and I do not care if you have to start going like they work for Acme Air Rangers or whatever. And remember that time that Acme Air Rangers from the United States of fiction went and invaded another country? Like, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I would absolutely die on the hill of, I don't care how ridiculous you have to make your thing look or sound in a real world context to protest the fact that the United States government has been, at first secretly and now not so secretly, telling studios what they can and can't put out,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, the U.S. military should not have script approval on any film ever unless they make it themselves. Thus is my hill. Here I will die.
Right. So we went through all of that, but to get back to our original point of Adrian Molina and his version of the film, that version of, we talked about Elio being gay. Originally, it was originally his mother that was part of the military. And she was originally going to be voiced by America Ferrera. With the script changes and everything, it becoming her aunt, now voiced by Zoe Saldana. And like I said, the changes happen after the original test screenings. And they test screened the original version of the film to families, and that is where the disaster happens because it was all negative feedback. The big question they always ask, would you pay to see this in the theater? And they all said no. Disney went into panic mode. And like, we have to salvage this film. How are we going to do this? So they delay the movie by over a year. They replace the director, they rewrite the script, they reanimate who knows how much of this movie and have to re-record all of the lines. It's likely that America Ferrera either wasn't available or straight up says, I'm not doing this again.
Well, actually, at least there was a really infamous Hollywood Reporter article that came out about this movie that I remember reading at the time. And it wasn't really verified by a lot of other sources, but, you know, I don't know. It was a Pixar person who was speaking under anonymity that had apparently worked on the film and said that a lot of the film staff left when Pixar fired Molina and brought in the team behind Turning Red instead. And that America Ferrera in specific was like, okay, there's like no Latino like voice at the head of this production anymore. Because as mentioned before, the women that wrote and directed Turning Red are Asian by background, which okay, fine. But it's not their heritage, and there had been claims from this source, whoever they might be, that that was America Ferrera's like big thing of like, okay, you're gonna redo this movie that's supposed to be about like, Latina heritage in, this kid's life, and that's kind of what I signed on for, and now there's no body in the like production team that has that background. So it doesn't feel authentic anymore. She, as far as I know, never came out and said that outright. She was just like, yeah, I did the early versions of that movie and it didn't work out or whatever. If she said anything at all. I don't really remember her saying anything, but I think like her representatives were like, oh yeah, she was involved in early parts of that, but whatever.
Probably didn't want to burn the bridge.
Yeah, and it's fine if you don't want to, but that's kind of the behind the scenes thing. A lot of people were said to have left because at least people from like animation or other parts of the production were supposedly left because the edict came down from Disney, Pixar, somewhere that they had to remove all kind of queer coding in the film. Whether or not that came from the test audience in the screening, that people say different things on that. Some people were like, oh no, but the test audience really hated that it was so gay. But like LGBT themed movies have been doing bang,
Yeah, but how many of them are family films or children's films?
Whether or not that's because, those movies don't do market or those movies just don't get made, I don't know. You can kind of point to like, well, there's not really a big hit but anecdotally, my goodness, I will see that community show up for like 4 seconds of representation in a film. So, like an entirely, even vaguely queer coded, I mean, we were talking just the other week about, drag queens pulling from Disney villains and then Disney villains pulling from drag queens,
Yeah.
So, like, don't tell me that there's not love in the queer community for Disney stuff.
Yeah. But
I think if that happened, that it was an edict, I kind of feel like it probably came from executives rather than being a thing in test audiences.
I can see it being that, okay, here are all the things they complained about. Well, all of the things they complained about had, wouldn't be there if if this boy was more masculine, did more boy things, and we gotta make this kid more of a masculine boy.
Yeah. Well, we had talked off mic about how they had put out an early trailer for this film. And even though there is nothing in that early trailer, and I don't know how far along in the process it was, but in that early trailer, Elio still mentions his mom, like getting home to his mom. So I'm pretty sure it was still one of the early cuts of the film.
Mm-hmm.
There's not really anything in that trailer that suggests to you that there's going to be any queer coding about this character. And he seems like a pretty average, boy liking boy things, if you want to go that route with it, according to that trailer. But that trailer also is like just a wildly different movie as far as
Yeah,
the plot.
yeah. So let's kind of dive into that original trailer before we get into the final version of the film. In that original trailer, we see what was then Elio's mother at this station, and she gets the message, bring us your leader, bring us your leader, bring us your leader. Apparently in the original version of the film, it was the mother that was obsessed with aliens. So when she finally got a message from an alien, she freaks out.
Yeah, she was part of the military group that, monitors the skies for signals. And that turned into Zoe Saldana being part of a force group that monitors the skies to track where all the space debris is so that, future space missions don't hit it when they go up into space.
I mean, she's one of the scenes in the final film is her redirecting an airplane so it doesn't hit any falling debris.
Yeah, which is a very important and, current problem that we have is that there's so much debris in low Earth orbit. So shout out to anybody who does work in tracking the movements of low Earth orbit, human-made space debris, because boy, have we absolutely gunked up that area. But
Satellites, rocket ships, you name it.
well, yeah, a little bit different, but in the original trailer, it seems that the message that got sent back to the aliens was a total accident instead of being sent on purpose by Elio, and it was just, some wires got crossed, as it were, between the mom's cell phone and the equipment in the lab, and sent back a message from Elio being like, hey mom, come pick me up. Okay, I love you, bye. And originally the aliens accidentally took that as a response to like their message of like, hey, we want to meet with your leader. And they got back Elio's like, pick me up. Okay, I love you, bye. And that like ends up with like, in the original trailer, like Brad Garrett's eventual sort of villain character, you know, is just like one of the aliens that's like maybe befriending Elio, and they have like a more like buddy cop relationship.
Yeah, in the original trailer, Earth is on trial for being a danger to the universe. I wouldn't have been against that story staying, but
I mean, it's a well-trod plot line, in science fiction. It's not like we haven't seen it before.
Yeah, I mean, Earth is kind of, especially given recent circumstances, kind of in a state of perpetual war against itself. So alien extraterrestrials monitoring the planet will see, hey, these people are trying to kill each other. What are they going to do to us?
I mean, that's everything from Klaatu Barada Nikto to South Park did it. I mean, it's, I mean, that long history in fiction there of aliens just showing up and being like, we think your species is too warlike to be part of our, whatever. So here's this little kid that suddenly has to be like, justify your entire species' existence. And instead, we get in the redone version. First of all, I think the first thing I said to you off mic when I started to watch this movie was like, they did not even let the company logo fade before they did the trauma dump on us.
Yeah, because Disney movie, dead parents.
I mean, it's not even Disney movie dead parents kind of reveal, which is like, the traditional reveal is just kind of like worked sort of effortlessly into the story of you just kind of realize that there's either one parent or both parents isn't there, or it's just kind of not talked about or whatever, or you kind of pick it up through context clues.
Like in Big Hero 6. They live with their aunt, but we never hear anything about the parents, so we can assume that the parents are gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's a world full of, like, supervillains and kaiju and stuff like that. The parents probably died in, one of those things. But, yeah, they never explain in Big Hero 6 why the kids are living with their aunt. You're right, And they could have done the same thing here. It's just a kid who's living with his aunt. That happens. You know that kid. I know that kid. Maybe you, listener, were that kid. That's fine. Stuff happens for all sorts of reasons. Maybe his parents were off in the military and he had to stay with his aunt who was in a better, in a better place that she could care for him, Maybe his parents were both on active duty at the moment and where they were stationed could not take kids. So he's staying with the aunt who is stateside and on a base that has, like, a really good place for kids to be, nice school or something. And that's where he's staying. That happens sometimes in military families. Doesn't mean the parents are dead and he's never seeing him again. It's just he's staying with his aunt right now. You can do that. You don't always have to kill the parents, Disney. But like, exactly no, they immediately, like, as soon as the logo fades, it's like, oh, I'm sorry about what happened to your brother and sister. I hear you're caring for your nephew now. Everyone is sorry for your loss. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, and both versions of the film kind of have this thing about Elio kind of not fitting in. And you can assume that the original not fitting in was him being gay or whatever. But with the final version, it's like the only people that understand him were his parents, and they're both gone. They even have their own made-up language that Elio tries to keep alive. Elioese, that, their own little fun thing. And he tries to get his aunt into it. And at first she's like, don't start that made up language stuff with me. Talk like a normal person. So he's already, feeling alone in the world because, there's no one who really understands him. And it's why he gets obsessed with aliens in the final film, because if there's no one on Earth who understands him, maybe there's someone out there who can understand him.
Oh my God, as a kid who was a conlanger, like, your parents are never going to be into your conlang. They're never going to learn your conlang. Sorry, kids. Sorry to bust your bubble. Like, nobody in your family is going to care about your conlang. You will always be the weird one. I'm sorry. The voice of experience comes to you through the podcast and gives you good life advice. No one in your family will ever care about your conlang. None of your friends will ever care about your conlang. There's only like 3 people in the world who have ever had anybody care about their conlang, and I have known all of them who have lived at the same time as me.
Going by other reports from those test screenings, again, not only was that opening and the major story changed, but like the villains changed. In the final version, we do get that warmongering Brad Garrett alien being the sort of villain. But in the original the original version of the movie, it was the clone. Elio gets cloned, and that clone stays on Earth. So to not arouse suspicions, again, we're still going with Elio being the leader of Earth, according to the aliens. So they put a clone of him on Earth to not arouse any suspicions, and the clone ends up feeling love and affection from the mother, and he doesn't want to go back. He doesn't want Elio to come back. He doesn't want to be destroyed after his purpose is fulfilled. So he kind of becomes this villainous character who wants to keep Elio away, and he's going to take over Elio's life. It was going to be a more down to earth story. The alien plot really wasn't going to play that much of a factor. But I guess that wasn't that, and that could have been one of the things that people didn't like, because you have a movie featuring aliens and the aliens don't really play that much into the story. It's just this guy that wants to take over another guy's life.
Well, all of those things can work in the sense of you kind of have competing plots, but the villain doesn't seem to have too much to do with the main plot, except for that's the reason for the villain to exist in the original version. Granted, this may have flowed better if you watched the entire movie, which neither of us ever got to do, Like, apparently one test audience got to see this original film.
Locked in the Disney vault forever.
Yeah, if it even still exists. I mean, they may have just deleted all that by this point. But the thing is like, if, as we are speculating in the original version, it's like, oh, Elio, we have come to judge Earth to see if it's worthy of being, our galactic federation of the awesomeness. Then all of a sudden you get back home and you're like, okay, I have finished the plot. And then there's the secondary plot of, no, now you must deal with the villain who has taken over your life or what, it's that's kind of a lot for a kid's film. You kind of need one through line for a kid's film. Maybe if that were aimed at adults, you can deal with like, haha, surprise villain at the end that we didn't think about, for the entire time.
Yeah. Maybe. I think it's also, I agree with you. It's probably simplifying the story a bit. All right, let's just keep, and I think it going back to what I said, I think it's just trying to make this council of aliens more central to the plot than it would have been in the original version of the movie.
Yeah. But as far as the movie we got, because that's what we have to deal with, plot that we ended up getting is not bad. I mean, you've got this kid who doesn't feel like Earth really gets him. I mean, preach, brother, and has always looked out to the stars and been like, you know what, somewhere there's a planet that is gonna get me. I feel like an alien on this planet. And, so he went from queer coded to neurodivergent coded by accident, I think, in this movie. And it was like, somewhere out there is a place that will literally speak my language, which they do via their like universal translator thing, is suddenly here's all these aliens that can speak his conlang that he is the only one that speaks,
Even the naughty words that he hadn't even thought of yet.
Well, yeah, because he doesn't even know all the adult naughty words yet, so he hasn't come up with conlang words for them yet, But I love how childish his language is, And it sounds like so stereotypical, like what a little kid thinks aliens sound like. It's all just like gleep glorp shablorp, like it's either that or this little kid who should not be watching Solar Opposites has been watching Solar Opposites. Because everything sounds Schlorpian. This little kid accidentally created the Schlorpian language, but which is why it has so many naughty words. Duh! Okay, we figured it out. The secret to Elio. So, he finally, through this little thing, he hears this signal that maybe it's aliens, maybe not. We don't get confirmation until after Elio sends his message back. But he gets a hold of the equipment in the military base one night, and he sends a message out to the universe that's like, hey, this is Elio, come pick me up. I really, if you're out there, come get me. I want to meet you. Okay, I love you, bye. And the aliens pick it up and they send back, although Elio doesn't know it, a message that's like, bring us your leader, please. Which I love the please on the end.
And I love how all of this is because of the golden record.
Yeah, the golden record on Voyager 2. So, the movie starts with one of the best cameos, I think, ever in a Pixar movie. Which, previously, the best cameo was Sigourney Weaver as the, hello, I'm Sigourney Weaver, and welcome to the Oceanographic Institute, or whatever she says in Finding Dory. But this one actually outdoes that cameo. And it doesn't even really call attention to itself. It's just one of those if you know things. Because if you're the type of person that would recognize this cameo, it's unmistakable. And if you're not going to understand why the person next to you is laughing. But the beginning of the movie has Elio sneaking away in a mall or something into an unfinished museum space and looking at a museum piece on Voyager 2, and they had one of those things where push this button to hear more, and the voice that tells you about Voyager 2 is actually Kate Mulgrew, Captain Janeway from Voyager.
There's coffee in that nebula.
There is coffee in that nebula, and we're gonna go get it.
For me, because I'm a huge Transformers fan, the golden record, or the golden disc, as we call it in the Transformers fandom, was literally how the Transformers found Earth in the first place, learned their languages, because the Voyager ended up landing on Cybertron, and that's how they found out about Earth.
Well, yeah, and of course, in Star Trek, the Star Trek the Motion Picture has them, doing the Viger probe bit, which is also from that idea. So it's basically as soon as we launched the probe, both Voyager 1 and 2, had similar discs on them, maybe even identical, I can't remember. But as soon as we launched them, it was basically like, let's put out a message to the universe and tell aliens how to find us and what our languages sound like and all that kind of stuff. The second we did that, people were like, but what if this went horribly, horribly wrong? And now they're introducing it to a new generation as well, what if this was found by basically the most peaceful civilization, the Communiverse, which is if the United Federation of Planets was even more pacifist and did less, I guess. But, it's just all of their ambassadors travel around on a giant ship together and create new technology and get drunk. I don't know. It's the one thing I didn't kind of understand about the Communiverse. Because it's definitely not like we are all the civilizations acting together, but they do represent home planets, you know? So this is kind of like the intergalactic UN that just like roams around the universe looking for other people to join it, and also creates technology, and also is, what would you call it, like, you know, one giant science party.
They all have this beverage, one of the aliens is definitely acting drunk when he drinks it, but
I was sitting there thinking, if this was a better kids movie, and I'm not even saying like necessarily like, oh, it's a bad kids movie because of this, but I'm just saying like if this was a more like a braver kids movie, when they give Elio the like, here's your welcoming glass of, bleep blorp or whatever they hand him. They're like, I was like, oh man, wouldn't it be hilarious if this was from a civilization that thought like, it's perfectly fine to give children alcohol. Like, why would that be a problem? You know? And then I realized, like, but they think he's an adult, which I didn't realize at first.
yeah.
Because it takes a little bit for it to kick in. Like, they think he's an adult because all these alien races come in different shapes and sizes and have different, like, tones in their voices and stuff like that, So, like, they have no idea what the, like, child form of human looks like versus the adult form.
And of course, they think he's the leader of Earth. So the leader of Earth would be an adult. If this guy, Elio, is the leader of Earth, this must be a human adult.
Because we're not in the freaking Star Wars universe.
You don't want to elect a teenager to be your queen?
Yeah, can we please not have, like, an elected 14-year-old to be queen of our planet? So whether or not this is even an alcoholic drink to humans, or some kind of intoxicant, some sort of mind-altering chemical to human physiology, is never really brought up. Because this is not a brave enough kids movie. I'm like, if this was a kids movie in the 90s, maybe, that kid would be so drunk right now.
We are so far removed from Pinocchio smoking a cigar.
Yeah, at least on the Disney end. But I was thinking, like, when we were kids, man, it was not out of the ordinary to see movies where it would show underage drinking, even if it was just to be like, hey, kids, drinking is bad. Don't drink, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But now we've gotten to the point where it's like, you can't even show the effects as like a teaching aid, you know? It's just like, you have to trust us. Bad things will happen. Don't do it. You know?
Because kids can replicate that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that is the thing about humans is like, you can be like, hey, don't create the torture nexus all you want. And they'll be like, it sounds like a good idea.
I kind of wonder if Elio's eye injury was the same in the original, because that's why he's wearing the patch over his eye. In the finished film, he ends up fighting one of the bullies, and he ends up getting his ham radio smacks him right in the eye.
Let me tell you, if you look down from the screen for even 2 seconds, for any reason at all, like, I don't know, maybe your dog distracts you for the 0.3 of a second that little plot point happens on screen, you're going to look back up and go, why does that kid have an eye patch now? Because boy, did I have to rewind this movie to figure out why that kid had an eye patch now. They do not do a good job at really kind of being like, oh, this is an eye injury that's going to necessitate a eye patch for the rest of the freaking movie. But since we just talked about that Doctor Who episode where like, oh yeah, the length of arms is difficult and how many knees should there be and which way should they bend, This is kind of the way that the ant finally figures out the clone in the movie.
Yeah, because when Elio sends his clone back to Earth, he says, don't be weird, be normal. Even the clone's like, okay, I'll be doing this whole depressed weirdo thing. Do you want me to do that? What's my motivation to be you?
Of course, Elio, like all kids, would be like, what do you mean weird? I'm not weird. I'm normal. Just act normal. And so, of course, the kid acts completely different from Elio in every way possible.
Yeah, I'm going to drop the whole alien thing. Oh, yeah, I'm going to help you out with the cooking and the cleaning, and I'm going to go to bed at a reasonable hour. Good night, Tia.
Yeah.
And I like how it is a bit of that conspiracy from the original version of the film bleeding in, because now the aunt has become a conspiracy theorist because, okay, what happened to my nephew? My nephew had a complete personality change in the 24 hours this kid was at camp.
As a kid who often traumatically got sent to camps that they didn't want to go to by a parental figure who was just looking to get them out of their life for a while. Yeah, I really related to when Elio was like, boarding school, you want to get rid of me. And she's like, no, it's just the summer camp. And he's like, you still want to get rid of me.
I mean, I don't blame Elio. He overhears that conversation that she wanted to be an astronaut, but she's putting her career on hold because now she has to care for her nephew. And he misunderstands that, like, I ruined her life. She doesn't want me around. She wants to get rid of me so she can have the life she really wants. I'm not going back to Earth.
And in Elio's defense, she really does not give him reason to believe that she wants him around until later.
When he gets back to Earth.
Yeah, when he gets back to Earth and he's like, yeah, I'm sorry I ran away, And it's like, she knows that he's constantly out there, like, in the sand dunes, leaving messages for aliens like, hello, abduct me, please. He's constantly talking about how, like, yep, I don't want to be on this planet anymore. And same, dude, same. We all feel you.
I have been in the Professor Farnsworth, I don't want to live on this planet anymore for years.
Yeah, but like, I mean, that was me as a kid. If somebody had been like, hey, you want to like go to an alien world, what's it gonna be like? We're not gonna tell you. It's just random choice, roulette wheel. Could be good, could be bad. It's just not Earth. That'd have been like, yeah, okay, spin that wheel, So yeah, I need Pixar to stop making depressingly relatable characters, please. But the thing is, like, this is his dream, like, to the point where all of the other bullies, when the aliens show up to abduct Elio, all of the other bullies are like, oh my god, no. And Elio's like, finally! Yes! Like, he is so super psyched that the aliens are, like, there finally. He's like, oh, don't be a dream. Don't be, some kind of, like, fantasy I'm having before I get my butt handed to me by all these bullies.
This bully just punched me in the face and I'm having a concussion. That's what this is, right? This is a concussion dream.
Yeah, that's what Elio first thinks it is, because, I mean, he is kind of getting his butt handed to him, But no, it's, once he realizes, like, oh, they've got me in a tractor beam. They're taking me up to space, Like, all right, fine. It's like, woo, This is great. And he gets there and it's even better than he ever thought. And it's absolutely wonderful until, we get Brad Garrett coming along as, Lord Zordon or whatever the hell.
It's Brad Garrett being Brad Garrett.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's Brad Garrett being generic sci-fi bad guy number 46. It's there's not much there until the end. It's like, hi, I'm giant mechano suit, and I am Glurg of the planet Omicron Persei 8,
Yeah. But yeah, he wants to be part of the Communiverse, but the Communiverse is kind of apprehensive because he is a warmonger and they are a community of peace.
And he only wants to be part of the Communiverse because they have superior technology and he thinks he can use it for weapons. And also, it's a little bit of a pride thing because when Elio first shows up, they tell Elio, like, oh, we're going to have to run away now. We're going to send you back to Earth. And maybe in like 1,000 years, we'll swing back around and whoever's leader then, we'll talk to them. And Elio's like, no, this is my one chance. I'll go stand up to the bully if I have to. Sure, conflict resolution. Do it all the time. Life is nothing but conflict.
To be fair, he's not wrong.
He's not wrong, no.
Life on Earth is constant conflict.
Well, and I mean, the life of a kid who's constantly getting the crap kicked out of him, even more so, So he's like, all right, I'll go deal with the bully and see if I can't work something out. Just don't count me out of your awesome, alien planet utopia yet. And they're like, all right, fine. We'll send you over as like our peace negotiator to him, but we don't think it's going to work anyway. And you will probably die. Okay, bye. Okay, I love you. Bye. And so they send him over, and when he gets over there, Lord Grygon, Brad Garrett, it's just Brad Garrett. Come on, it's just Brad Garrett. Is all like, basically just like, why don't they want me? It's for great leaders. Am I not a great leader? And Elio has to be like, I mean, sure, you're just a great leader in the smashy stompy way, and they want great leaders in the thinky talky way.
Yeah, maybe you should find other warmongers to hang out with and not constantly want to be part of this group that doesn't really want anything to do with you.
Yeah, you're trying to join, the Justice League. What you need to do, like, don't be at the Hall of Justice, Why don't you go over to the Legion of Doom and be like,
in the
hey,
swamp.
Yeah, go to the swamp and be like, hey, you guys, you seem like more my vibe. Those dorks at the Hall of Justice wouldn't let me in.
Yeah, and Elio kind of looks up because there's this encyclopedia that knows everything about everything. And because he's a kid, he does that whole 1 gorilla versus 100 thing. God, that was a meme then, wasn't it?
Yeah, honestly, even before that specific meme, it was always kind of like, okay, who would win in a fight?
Yeah.
It
is very much like what a kid would do. Here's this encyclopedia that knows everything about everything, the meaning of life and all that. And it's like, okay, who would win between this guy and this guy? The true winners are someone who does not cause conflict. Come on! The gorilla would win. I knew it!
Yeah, the only way to win is not to play. This is what happens when you don't teach children the classics,
Mm-hmm.
But, there's lots of good Easter eggs in the bit where he looks up, like, conflict resolution for dummies in the ultimate encyclopedia of everything they got. And he, they go through, like, there's a little shout out to, like, the Vulcan hand salute and all kinds of stuff as it, like, scrolls past all these, like, peaceful resolution things, and then it's like, you want things like, take something that he loves and use it as a bargaining chip. Yeah, that's what I want, because he's a little kid. And, while he's over there, he finds out that, like, this guy has a kid. And then he ends up making friends with the kid, Glordon, who's a little worm.
Yeah, we find out that these species are just little worm things in battle suits. And once you come to a certain age, each little worm guy goes into their battle suit and they stay in their battle suit and they have weapons and rockets. And as little Gordon said, even a cup holder.
Yeah. Everything needs a cup holder, damn it.
Yeah. So at some point, Gordon will go into his battle suit and become a warmonger like his father, which he doesn't want to do.
I just want to point out that one of the coolest things in this was that as I was researching this movie, I discovered that the kid who does the voice of Glordon is the child of the guy who does the voice of Peter Potamus in Harvey Birdman. So Glordon is the kid of the guy who's always going like, "Did you get that thing I sent you?" And now I can't hear anything else. It's adorable. I just wanted to hear Glordon at one point and go like, "Hey, did you get that thing I sent you?" It would make no sense to anybody else, but it would make me laugh. That's all I care about. So the thing is that, like, speaking of the voice cast real quick, I love how few of this voice cast are like stunt casting. Like, yes, some of these people we know, like Zoe Saldana, yeah, okay, fine. But like Brad Garrett has done a lot of voice work. Jamila Jamil hasn't done like a bunch of voice work, but she's kind of transitioning into it. Shirley Henderson, though, is in this, and she's done a bunch of voice work. Most people our age are going to know her from the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah.
But we also know, she's just done like a whole bunch of voice work, more in Britain than over here, but both. But like a lot of the people are like legit voice actors, even if you know them for something else. Like the kid who plays Elio, legit voice actor, like prior to doing Elio. He'd done a lot of stuff for Disney before that, and he continued doing stuff for Disney after. He even did the voice of Pinocchio at one point after this, but not for a Disney project. It's just kind of interesting that he did a character so tied with Disney, just not for a Disney project, But he kept doing stuff for Disney specifically because he did a bunch of stuff with the Star Wars universe.
Currently the voice of Damian Wayne in the Bat Fam cartoon.
Yeah, that too. So like I said, like, the people in this film most of them are, kind of legit voice actors. And it's not like, it might have been another reason why this movie was not big commercial success.
Yeah, and
Is
we've talked about
because
this.
it's excellently acted, but when you're like, oh, who's in it? They're not huge names other than like maybe Zoe Saldana, Brad Garrett, and Jamila Jamil.
I mean, we've talked about the stunt casting these kind of movies before, and how people are, they always say, we've seen these trailers of animated movies that is just so and so as this, so and so as that, so and so, and it's just the entire trailer is telling you how many celebrities they got in the movie and tells you nothing about the story.
Yeah, and then you go watch the movie and you're like, wait, I thought this actor was supposed to be in it, and then you find out that they had like literally 2 voice lines that they recorded in 5 minutes as they like walked through the studio. It's like somebody just shoved a microphone in their face and went like, say these 2 phrases, and they said them, and then they were like, Cole, we'll put it in a movie, here's $1 million. Like,
But it's like everyone keeps saying, put more voice actors in these movies and stop stunt casting, and kind of the time where they actually get people who are known voice actors. Even America Ferrera was a voice actor. She did like How to Train Your Dragon and stuff. So she already has the experience. So now you have all of these actors who have voice acting experience, and no one went to go see the movie.
Yeah.
So that's also going to be another thing for Disney. It's like, okay, more stunt casting, more celebrities in these movies.
Yeah, that was the problem with this movie. It didn't have enough celebrity stunt casting. Like, no, I mean, the movie was really well acted.
Hollywood always learning the wrong lessons.
Yeah. It's just that nobody knew, 1, that this movie was coming out, or 2, what it was about,
Mm-hmm.
There's a 3, and we'll get to that. But, Elio is like a prisoner on the the villain's ship and he meets, Glordon, and they become best friends. It's what Elio has always wanted. Not only a friend, but a friend who's an alien. And a friend who feels like he doesn't fit in on his home planet either.
Yeah,
You
like I
know?
said, he doesn't want to be a warmonger. He just wants to be a kid, and that is not allowed on their planet.
I don't want
Like I
to
said,
spend the rest of my life in the Iron Man suit. I want to be a nice little wormy thing in my swaddled little cocoon. And honestly, I feel you, Glordon. Who doesn't want to spend the rest of their life swaddled up in a nice warm cocoon?
the number of people who have a burrito blanket for that sole purpose.
Yeah. I mean, you have literally been in a room with me for more than 5 minutes. You know that I will immediately go, "It's too cold in here." Everybody else is like, "It's 85 degrees." I'm like, "I don't care. I am freezing. Bring me more blankets." I
Yeah.
felt Glordon deep in my soul throughout most of this movie, because that's the entire point of this movie is Glordon is always like, "Wow, I've never been outside before. It's way too cold out here."
Yeah,
Which, considering
that's a
we're recording this in January and I haven't left my house in days.
but that's also part of them wearing the battle armor, is it keeps them warm because their planet is full of lava, and all of their weapons are lava based. So it's like they're a lava based people. So they would need something that would keep them warm, hence the battle suits.
I love that this entire movie they were like, "Hey, we're looking for a villain." And they're like, "Okay, what if tardigrades, but Daleks?" And it's like, "Okay, yeah, what if you opened up a Dalek and inside was a tardigrade?" And it's like, "Yeah, that." Because that's kind of what they are, you know? It's like on the outside is like this big metal war machine, and on the inside is a squishy little tardigrade that was built to survive in really extreme climates, you know? I love it. I love everything about the design of this species.
Yeah. So the two kids come up with a plan. I'm going to pretend to kidnap you, and we're going to make your dad notice you, because that's another thing. He feels like his dad doesn't notice him because he's out doing warmonger stuff. So he's going to notice you. He's going to leave us alone. He's going to cease his attack on the Communiverse, and we can also have him be like, "Hey, you don't have to be a warmonger either." And that's their plan.
Yeah, and Glordon discovers that he absolutely loves it on the Communiverse because there's snacks and everything's just like a really chill vibe and nobody's fighting. Nobody expects Glordon to fight, and he can just like hang around in his cocoon and eat all day. And once again, Glordon, I feel you deep in my soul. This is my perfect utopia as well. Please just wrap me in a cocoon and feed me snacks all day and just let me be warm and vibe. The only thing missing from this utopia is just a mountain of cheese. That's what I need. A mountain of cheese, and this utopia would be complete. So yeah, I mean, once they get back to the Communiverse, Glordon gives Elio kind of the secret words, which is like, on your honor, specifically as a whatever the name of their species is, you have to promise to leave the Communiverse alone and never come back and bother them again. And apparently that's like a really big thing, but Qui-Gon thinks that like, "Oh, you're torturing my son," because he hears Glordon laughing for the first time, and he's like, "That horrible noise! What is it?"
Stop torturing my boy.
Yeah, "I'll do anything, just make that noise stop." But the Qui-Gon is like, "All right, but to save some of my family honor, we're having your like Iron Man suit ceremony as soon as I get over to the Communiverse to formalize this peace treaty." And Glordon's like, "No, I don't want to go on the Iron Man suit. What do I do?" And Elio's like, "Wait, They have a cloning machine. Let's use that. Your dad'll never know the difference. He doesn't pay attention to you at all anyway. And Elio looks back at like what his clone's doing, and like his clone is getting along with his aunt, and like the aunt doesn't seem to suspect a thing, and Elio's like, she's forgotten about me already. She's much happier with the clone,
She has her perfect little son, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, her
Her
perfect little Elio is there. I'm happy here. We can just move on with life and, keep going. But like, all right, they clone Glordon, and this is the one thing where the movie did surprise me, because there is a moment where you're like, oh, they've switched Glordons. Like, Elio has ended up with the real Glordon, and the clone has ended up in the ship hiding from Grigon. Did you also think that watching the movie?
I was wondering if they were going to pull that trick, because Elio straight up asked, okay, which one is the real one? And one just shoots at me. Get in the ship. You were going to your father.
Yeah. And that, to me, I was like, because when they leave the cloning room, like, I forget which way it's done in the movie, but I'll just say, like, the real one is on the left and the clone is on the right, or whatever. And when they get to the ship and he's like, wow, you look identical. I can't tell you apart. Which one is real? The one on the right is like, oh, me, I'm the real one. And I'm like, okay, they did this because they wanted, like, the adults in the audience, at least, to notice, like, when they started walking down the hallway, the one on the left was the real one, and now the one on the right is claiming to be the real one. The switcheroo, like, the little kids won't get it, but the adults should be paying attention. Because that's how it happens in, like, every movie. But, like, no, apparently they just did switch sides, like, and it was never shown on camera. So there is no way to realize that, like, oh, that really is the real, they haven't pulled like a switcheroo. He really did walk down there with the clone, because they do the whole, like, joining ceremony to the Iron Man suit. Then Grigon just turns around and absolutely obliterates what everybody thinks is his son, and it turns into a pile of cloning goo.
Yeah, because clone Glorden saying, yeah, I can't wait to make war. I'm going to be the best war guy in the world, Dad. You'll be proud of me. Bam! How did you know it was a clone? A father always knows. Which does play into the ending.
Yeah, I mean, it does play into the ending, but, like, I was like, dude, he actually just killed his son. Like, holy crap, we're spending the rest of this movie with, like, clone Glordon, because, like, they switched on us, and that's, like, a really brave choice for this movie to make. No, they just, it was either an animation mistake, or it was something, or it was a dropped plot line from a previous cut of the movie.
It's probably a scene where the two Glordons were just horsing around and playing, and they ended up switching sides, so Elio couldn't tell which one was which.
Yeah. But that was the one point where this movie, like, really got me, because I was like, oh, they're about to do something really brave. They have just killed the real Glordon. But no, it just, the movie screwed that up somehow. But the thing is that then, like, Grigon absolutely loses his mind, because he's like, all right, where's my real kid? And Elio's like, I'm not going to tell you. And then Jamila Jamil's alien is, like, forced to mind read Elio, which they set up earlier in the movie, wasn't important until now. And she discovers, like, not only where the real Glordon is hiding in the ship, which only Elio can open, like, it's keyed specifically to his DNA, so he's the only one that can open the ship. And also that Elio is just a kid who has been lying to them this entire time. He's not really the leader of Earth. And they're like, okay, we're just gonna send you back to Earth. They do. They send him back to the beach they took him from.
And as this is all happening, Glordon starts to panic because Glordon panics in the ship because his father's men are trying to find him. He accidentally turns the ship on, coordinates straight to Earth. So now Daddy is ticked off because you said my son was in the ship room. He's not there. Where did you put him? Tear this place apart until you can find my son.
So then everybody in the Communiverse is being held prisoner by Grigon until Glordon can be found, and Glordon and Elio are back on Earth. But Elio happens to run into his aunt, who had figured out the whole clone thing, mostly because she picked up the eye patch on the clone, and the clone hadn't realized that there was like a second eye underneath that, so she picks up the eye patch and it's just blank skin under there. And the clone's like, yeah, we need to talk. You figured out something's wrong. I messed up somehow in the cloning process. Oops.
Well, then again, she had picked up that Elio had been acting strangely, and she's gone all conspiracy. Her whole room is like, what happened to my nephew? What happened to him? He's not acting like himself. Has he been kidnapped? Has he been replaced? Is there a doppelganger? Is there a changeling?
Yeah, she's got a whole Pepe Silvio board up on the...
But there's a big commotion over at the military base because, hey, they found an alien spaceship. It's Glordon. And now it's a race to get Glordon back.
We do have to mention, just before Glordon's ship, crash lands, the real Elio shows back up and he's like, wait, you're actually sad I was gone? You realized it was a clone the whole time? Because he kind of missed that part that the audience saw. And she's like, of course, I missed everything about you. I love you so much. And he's like, oh, you could have acted like that literally at any point in the movie up until now. And most of this could have probably been like totally skipped as a plot line. I probably would have never gotten kidnapped by aliens if you'd have just shown me even the slightest bit of affection prior to this moment. Thanks, Auntie. But we're not going to go into how this is all Olga's fault. Anyway, so yeah, then all of a sudden the ship crash lands. He's like, okay, yeah, that's my best friend who is an alien, and we need to go get him. And one of the best things of the movie is just the absolutely super helpful clone who is just happy to be there.
I'm glad you two have finally worked out your differences. So, if you don't need me, I will just be a clone and decompose.
Feel free to spread me over some plants as fertilizer. Okay. And they're like, no, wait. And then it leads to like what probably is the bravest scene in the movie, where it just goes horror movie for like 25 seconds of the clone just like walking out of the shadows on the military base and being like, hi, can you help me? I don't feel so good. And then he just like starts melting. And you get like really bizarre lines in the background from the guy that like the clone hugs onto before he starts melting. And then the guy's like, why is it in my mouth? Why does it taste sour?
It's a nice little nod here, and I don't know if you caught it. It's Terminator 2 death.
Yes, the Terminator 2 death. As he's like dissolving, he does the little thumbs up and then finishes dissolving with like, yeah.
I like Elio's little salute. Thank you for your service, clone.
Yeah. The proper use of that term. Dang it. Anyway, Elio and Olga get in there and they find Glordon in the ship, and Glordon is suffering from hypothermia because, my goodness, the little thing that they gave him on the Communiverse to give him his own personal temperature setting, which I need one of those so bad. I have never wanted anything more in my life than that little piece of technology.
Yeah, it got damaged when the ship crashed on Earth, and he's dying.
Yeah, he is dying. He is shivering. And Elio's like, no, it's too cold for him. We have to cover him. Like, give me your jacket and let me try to hug him warm. And, good instincts, Elio, by the way. Like, very, very good survival instincts. But, we find out that Olga does know just enough of Elio's conlang to be able to tell him, you know, hey, throw that helmet. Although she says ice cream for like the first 2 or 3 times. And then Olga and Elio break out of the military base and start trying to head back. But the problem is we mentioned that debris field earlier. Yeah, that's a problem. The ship can't plot a course until they're clear of the debris field.
So yeah, they need someone on the ground who can guide them through, and Elio only knows one person, which was one of the bullies who he kind of tricked into joining a ham radio club so he can contact the aliens. Which he does kind of help, like, dude, you know, like, what happened to you? We got into so much trouble when you left. That guy's a jerk. I'm not going to hang out with him anymore. But yeah, well, you know that ship in the Air Force Base? Yeah, we stole it. We need help getting out of the atmosphere.
You know, everything in the TV show, it's true. It's all true. Get everybody on the line.
We haven't talked about him yet, but he does come into their edge. That is Mr. Melmac.
Yeah, a reference from Alf, by the way. I love how many
Alf.
references to other sci-fi things there are in this movie. We haven't really mentioned, like, just how much of this movie is an Easter egg to every other sci-fi thing ever.
I mean, Kate Mulgrew narrating The Voyager is a big one.
Yeah.
And again, the Terminator reference.
There are several Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy references. I mean, the big one is that the ship design is based on the Heart of Gold and the shuttlecraft that they took out of the Heart of Gold in the movie that is owned by Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we've talked about before on the podcast, go look that episode up. But
I love that Melmac's wallpaper on his laptop is cats.
Yes, that's a good Alf joke as well. If you know, you know. Elio, we see has like a bunch of, you know, generic sports posters on his wall at one point when he's the clone. And at one point it has like a player jersey number and it says 42. So there's your other Hitchhiker reference. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like really cool stuff in there. But yeah, they discover that Mr. Melmac, who used to work with Olga and kind of got fired for not really using the equipment to do his job so much, but instead to try to see if there were alien signals out there.
I mean, he discovers the alien signature to begin with.
Yeah, but then he gets fired because they're like, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. We track debris, not communication signals, you know. That's somebody else's department, which is such a military thing to do. But yeah, it turns out that the bully knows Mr. Melmac because Mr. Melmac is like really well known in the ham radio community. And yeah, I grew up with a girl who her dad was like a huge ham radio guy. And so like he always kept trying to get me into ham radio when I was a kid, and I never did. But mad respect for anybody that can take all the tests and do all the stuff to get their ham radio license, man, because that is some nonsense you got to go through to get on a ham radio. But
and apparently this ham radio club is international.
Well, that I do know, because that intersects with the Esperanto community, which I am a part of. There is a lot of overlap between Esperanto community and ham radio community. Prior to the internet, that's how Esperanto speakers would talk to each other.
Because, yeah, Melmac sends out a signal to all of his ham radio club members, the Masters of Ham.
Love that name.
Like just when all seems lost and they're out of range of Melmac's radio, they get radio signals from all over the world, monitoring their flight out of orbit, avoid debris. It's an awesome scene because you're hearing people from all over the world in their languages telling them where to go.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie. I kind of started tearing up at that scene when they all started kind of coming in and they're like, hey, I'm in France and I've got this tracking for you. Hey, I'm in Nigeria and I've got this for you. Hey, I'm in India and I've got this for you. Hey, I've got, over in Singapore and I've got this for you. It's like, man, it's like, I will admit, like, that was the one part of the movie, like, of all the parts of a Pixar movie that, like, actively try to make you cry, this was the part of this movie that actually made me cry. I was like, I love it
It's
when the
not
human race comes together to do a thing.
it's not a Pixar movie until it makes you cry.
Yeah, I mean, this one at least got like one decent like sniffle out of me, But they're able to clear the debris field with the thanks to the Masters of Ham worldwide, and they they get out there and they're able to get back to the Communiverse. And as soon as they get back, they bring Glordon out, and Elio's like, he's too cold, to warm him up and everything, and all, but the translator is broken, so nobody knows what he's saying, but they can all see that he's so upset and he's crying and throwing his
He's hugging
body
him.
over
Yeah.
Glordon, trying to warm him up. And Grigon does the one thing we've been told that their species will never do. He rips his metal suit open and exposes his little fleshy tardigrade body and goes out there and spins the little web to swaddle Glordon and warm him back up and bring him back to life.
Because he really does love his son. That's how he knew. That's how he knew it was the clone. Because that's not how my son would act. And he would do anything for his son. Yes, he's a warmongering blood tyrant, in his own words, but he would do anything for his son, even dishonor himself.
Yeah, and Glordon was like, well, wait, you mean this whole time you knew? And Grigon was like, of course I knew, but like you get the feeling of like there was literally no other path for you on our planet. I didn't know there was another path for you in the universe. Every member of our species does the exact same thing. They talk about how like Glordon's mom is still alive. She's just off fighting, the blood wars somewhere else, And so, like, even his mom is, like, a warrior that's off doing war stuff in her Iron Man suit,
I mean, there's that line that he says, and I don't know if this is a leftover from the original queer coding of this movie, but he says, I may not always understand you, but I will always love you.
I mean, it could be either, but it's such a great line.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's really all that, like, anyone ever wants to hear from their parental figure,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is like, it doesn't matter if you understand your loved ones, you just have to love them, But he, the thing is that he was like, yeah, Gargon's like, yeah, Glordon, you don't ever have to get into the Iron Man suit. Communiverse, you're all free to go. I release everybody. I'm never gonna mess with you again.
Well, he already promised all he wanted was his son back. He agreed
Well,
to it, so yeah.
well, yeah, but I mean, like, he had taken them all hostage up until literally that moment.
Because he wanted his son back.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying, like, resolution of the movie time. And then the Communiverse is like, hey, Elio, it doesn't matter if you're leader of Earth or not. You can be the ambassador of Earth. You can stay with us. You've earned your place on the Communiverse. And everything up until literally that point in the movie where they pin the badge on his chest and start hugging him, and it's like, welcome home, Elio, like, we're gonna have so much fun together. Everything up until that point in the movie is a really good movie. Roll credits right there. Pretty damn good movie. I got no problem with this movie. But then there's another 3 minutes of this movie and it tanks the entire film.
There's no place like home, Kiki.
Yeah. There's a ton of places out there and they are all better than home, let me tell you. And Elio proves it. Because he turns around and the ant is just standing there with little wibbledy eyes but what about me? And what about Earth? And I'm like, okay, they have set this woman up as someone who has always wanted to leave Earth's atmosphere and be a what? Astronaut! She just got to live her dream. She just got to fly a spaceship. She just ended up on another spaceship that is full of aliens with even more spaceships. This woman should, after the initial shock wears off, be in hog heaven right now. Instead, she's like, but I want to go back to being junior grade 40th class private in the whatever and having maybe I can pilot the worst built spaceship in the universe and then leave a bunch of space debris in low Earth orbit and barely get off the friggin' ground again. You were just in hyperdrive and you want to go back to planet of barely off the friggin' ground is our space program? And we barely even have that anymore because we're outsourcing it to billionaires who don't even know how to do anything.
With their phallus-shaped rockets for the lull.
Yeah, I mean, they just want to be like, look how rich I am. I can afford to shoot a thing that is shaped like a male member into low Earth orbit for 90 seconds. Look at me. Aren't I rich? Let's get back to the ground and party. When even William Shatner knows how full of crap you are the most full of crap in the history of being full of crap. That is the lowest of low bars. And this woman, they don't even give her any lines, but that's the implication of the movie. No, I have to go back to crappy Earth, to the crappy life that was crappy for both me and my aunt. Because her life wasn't going so great either. It was going better than the kids, granted, but she's already been on the phone complaining to whoever about, this isn't the life I thought I would lead. I wanted to be an astronaut and go into space, and now I gotta, put my career on hold and take care of a kid, Well, excuse me, miss, what if you could just stay on the spaceship of awesome aliens and become a pilot for all of their spaceships?
And get drunk off alien booze.
Yeah, it's not like she's but I left my partner back there and 4 other children. No, it's literally just her and Elio. Okay, yeah, maybe she's got friends back there. Okay. Yeah, it would be sad, but these people have high grade communications. They could probably just upgrade her phone all Doctor Who and she could just call and be like, yeah, I'm on a super secret mission for the military. Yeah, they can't acknowledge that I'm doing it, and I can't either. But, you can keep a secret. Anyway, just thought I'd check in and ask how Thanksgiving went. Okay, bye.
They literally do that in the post-credit scene where Elio and one of the other kids
Glordon, it's that bully kid with the ham radio. They contact Glordon and they're like, hey, catch us up on things. There's literally no reason this movie has to end with Elio going back to Earth. There is nothing for him or his aunt back on Earth.
And they try to smooth it over with some Carl Sagan.
Try to smooth it over with the aliens being like, well, the offer is open. And they make it sound like, okay, once you reach adulthood, you'll probably contact us and we'll come back and pick you up and then you can leave. Once you're not a minor child in the custody of your aunt anymore. And I'm like, why is the aunt not just as thrilled to go,
They're trying to make it a heartwarming moment. He wants to give Earth a try and try to be a family with his aunt. And it is supposed to be this heartwarming moment, but it does fly in the face of the rest of the movie. She's always wanted to be an astronaut and had to put her career on hold because now her brother died and now she has to raise her nephew. Her nephew has never felt at home on Earth and always wanted to go to space. Win-win. You both get what you want.
All they needed to do was add like 2 more lines to the movie, like one earlier in the movie where the aunt was like, my dream was just to be like the best pilot in NASA or whatever. And now I can't do that. And then add another line at the end of the movie after she like does that amazing flying job clearing that debris field with the help from the ham radio group, where the aliens are like, we were actually monitoring you and that was some of the best flying we've ever seen. Why don't you come pilot with us? We've got a bunch of experimental aircraft that we need to,
Or simply, Elio, you're too young to be an ambassador, but as long as you have a guardian with you, you can be here for as long as you want.
I mean, like,
boom.
Give the aunt a reason why she wants to be there other than just like, it is my responsibility to take care of this kid. I had to put my career on hold. Now I have to put my planet on hold. Now I have to, like, this woman had hopes and dreams and they perfectly align with the end of this movie. Why are both of these people giving up the perfect situation for both of these people to go back to Planet of the Idiot Apes?
Yeah.
This movie so misreads the tone of like every bit of like where the human brain is right now in history in that last 3 minutes. Because like, okay, when The Matrix first came out and there's that moment where it's like, oh man, I have woken up to the real world. The Matrix was a lie. I must be in the real world. And then you've got like Joey Pants being like, you know what? The real world kind of sucks. I want to go back into the Matrix. Keanu Reeves said that like he showed the Matrix to like some kids, like some teens that were like his friends' kids. And it got to that moment and they were like, why is this guy the villain? Like, I get that he tries to kill people later, but like, why is this perspective the villain perspective in the movie? And Keanu's like, okay, well, yeah, but if you found out that like the world you lived in was a lie, it was just like virtual reality or whatever, wouldn't you want to like wake up and be in the real world? And they were like, if it was like the real world sucks, or I've got the chance to like just be in VR and that doesn't suck, no thanks, I'm gonna be in VR. Because honestly, the like society has changed so much that kind of most people are like, you know what? I get it. Reality sucks so bad right now that whatever the Matrix is, I'd just plug myself in, And I cannot imagine people watching that Elio as even as a kid. If I watched that movie and he goes back to Earth at the end, I would have picked this VHS out of the VCR and I would have hurled it violently through a window. That's what I would have done to this movie as a kid. I mean, we talked before on this podcast about why I stopped reading like a lot of kids books when I was a kid, like why I stopped reading the Narnia series. It's because at the end of every book, they always sent the kids back to the real world. And it was like, oh, Narnia, you're all kings and queens. Real world, World War II is going on and your country is being bombed all to hell. Like, which one would you want to be in?
Yeah.
And Elio is just that, but for modern day. Except there's literally no downside. It's not like he's cut off from Earth forever. He can communicate with them whenever he wants, and he can have the aliens take him back if he ever gets homesick.
Yeah, they can literally open up a portal saying, hey, there's Earth. Go right there. We'll pick you up in a few hours.
Yeah, they have basically instantaneous portal travel across the universe in this movie. Why would both of these humans not want to stay with this alien group? There is literally, they are not shown to have any family, friends, or ties except for the aunt is in the military and she seems to have some, like, okay, there are people she's got in the military that maybe they're her friends. but like, they might just be okay co-workers. We don't even know how close they are, because it's not like we really see them hanging out that much, except for in one scene when somebody comes over to give her some information. Oh my goodness, the last 3 minutes of this movie make me so mad. I want a sequel to this movie just to fix how bad the last 3 minutes of this movie are. If you are a parent listening to this and you have a child, stop the movie the second they are celebrating and be like, that's the end of the movie. There's no more movie after that. And just let them grow up thinking the movie literally ends with all the aliens hugging Elio and being like, good job, Ambassador, you get to stay. Be like, something's corrupted in the file, and our file is corrupted. You never get to see the credits. But that's all that's in there. I saw it in theaters. It's literally just credits after that. They will thank you for it.
So, Kiki, on that, does Elio have the magic?
Until that last 3 minutes, it's a perfectly fine movie. I was really digging it, literally until the point where they were like, nah, I'm going to give up everything I've ever dreamed of and go back to Earth instead for no reason at all.
I think the movie is a bit slow to start, but once it gets going, it is a pretty good pace. I feel bad for missing it in theaters. I'll say it, I feel bad. I think it's going to be one of those movies that will probably be a cult classic among Disney fans. Did the movie deserve better? No.
Not with that last 3 minutes attached.
It's a fine, middle-of-the-road Disney movie. It is perfectly serviceable movie for families. Yeah. I think it does have magic. I would love to see the original version of the movie. We're never going to, but I would love to see the original version of this movie. As for next week, the Percy Jackson series on Disney Plus is going pretty well, but I think it's time that we take a look at the first iteration of the Percy Jackson live action franchise. Percy Jackson, the Lightning Thief from 2010. Percy Jackson films have had complaints for not being as true to the books as other young adult book to movie adaptations. I have not seen the new series, but I have heard that the series does it better than the films did. So we're going to see how the first go around of the Percy Jackson series went. This is going to be a first watch for me. I've never seen the Percy Jackson movies, so this is going to be interesting.
I've at least seen the first one.
So it's going to be fun. So come back next week for Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Lightning Thief. And we will talk to you all next time. Okay,
hey,
bye. I
love you.
Don't let the magic stop here.
Keep the conversation going. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Rewatching the Magic.
We are also on Blue Sky, rewatchingthemagic.bsky.social. And new episodes are available at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com and youtube.com/@rewatchingthemagic. Remember, the magic is for everyone.
It only stops if you let it.
We know that right now, things are tough.
But in the words of Jim Henson, the only way the magic works is by hard work. But hard work can be fun.
Check out our show notes for ways that you can help.